Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be asked to speak to you this afternoon. Today I'm going to talk to you about the BAWA Health Initiative, which is a 501c3 that I co-founded about 7 years ago with a colleague, Dr. Blaise Dongy. We're centered out of Wallingford, Connecticut, and the explicit purpose of the BAWA Health Initiative is to provide basic health care to a group of small villages in a remote area of Cameroon. Dr. Dongy started telling me about the village that he had grown up in, which is a small village in the mountains of a remote part of Cameroon. Blaise started coming over to my home, and our families would get together, and he knew that we were great cat lovers. And one day he told me, he said, "You know, Dennis, just for part of what you spend feeding your cats, you could save the lives of children in my village." And from that point, he had me hooked. And we started talking and working together, and within 6 months, I was on a plane to Africa to start the work that is now known as the BAWA Health Initiative. Just to give you an idea, we take so much for granted here. Life there is very different. There's no electricity, there's no running water, there's no sanitation, there are no telephones, although now we actually can get cell service in the village. There are no cars in the village. There's a road that goes through the village, so you can drive to and from the village sometimes, but there are no cars in the village. All of their water comes from a series of rivers that run through some steep ravines through the village, and this is one such water hole. The problem is that before the water actually arrives at the water hole here, it has gone through several compounds, even other villages, such that it's heavily contaminated with human feces. And that's the source of a lot of the diseases that plague the village. This is a photograph of a latrine at B. Tanyafoot's house, which is actually probably the best latrine in the village. It's covered, which is unusual. But essentially, latrine just consists of a hole in the ground. And in this case, it's covered by logs. That is to keep children and small animals from falling in. But you can imagine, it's hot, it's humid, and during the wet season, typically it gets up to 90 degrees or more in the day. During the dry season, even hotter than that. And you can imagine the smell. When we first arrived in 2006, that was our first actual working trip. The first thing that we did was form a village health committee. And we spent the first few weeks training the village health committee. Nearly half of the parents that we talked to indicated that they had experienced malaria in their household within the 2 weeks preceding the survey. Now, being a parasitologist, I thought I knew quite a bit about malaria. I've read about it, I've studied about it. As my students all know, I talk quite extensively about it. But you really don't understand the disease until you see the human face of that disease. Until you hold one of these babies in your arms that's beginning to convulse because of the high fever, it gives you a completely different perspective on these diseases. So we decided the first thing that we needed to do was to fight malaria. And the best way to do that is through the use of insecticide-treated bed nets. Study after study by the World Health Organization has shown that insecticide-treated bed nets are the most effective way to reduce the spread of malaria and to minimize both morbidity and mortality associated with malaria. Traditionally, the conventional wisdom has been the people that you want to get the bed nets to are children and women of childbearing age because they are the most vulnerable. So initially, that's what we did. We saw that everyone in the village of BAWA, which incidentally is a village of about 350 people, that was either a woman of childbearing age or a child, had a bed net. And after we did that, we were feeling really good about ourselves. I mean, gosh, look what we've done. We're going to save all these lives. This is great. We've gotten these bed nets out there. And that next Sunday morning, I was lying in my tent, and I hear Sylvan coming up the hill. Prof, Prof. That's what Sylvan calls me. And I come dragging out of my tent. Yeah, Sylvan, what is it? He said, we need you. There's been a death in the village. And it turns out that I was summoned to the home of the president of the village health committee, a good friend of mine named Andre. And Andre and his wife had decided they wanted to attend Mass. About half the village is Catholic. And there's no church, though, in the village. So in order to attend Mass, that is a major undertaking. It requires, at a minimum, 2 days, because it takes a day to walk there and then a day to walk back. And when they had left, their 17-year-old daughter, Vivian, was starting to feel kind of rotten. You know that feeling you get just when you're kind of maybe coming down with the flu or something, the achy feeling? She was just feeling a little bad. When they returned 3 days later, she was dead from a stage of the disease called cerebral malaria. It can strike quickly, and it is very harsh. So here we were. I learned a couple of things from this unfortunate teaching event. First of all, I learned that somehow we have this notion in this country that because so many people die of these diseases, that somehow you get used to it or something and it makes it easier. And I can tell you that's not the case. I'll never forget walking up the pathway to Andre's compound. And he's a big man, a farmer. And he was standing there just trying to hold up. And I'll never forget seeing this big, strong man in tears rolling down his cheeks. And when I walked up, he just hugged me. And he laid his head on my shoulder and he wept like a child. I have 3 daughters of my own. And I can really relate to Andre. And I can tell you, when one of these folks lose a child, it hurts. It hurts deeply, so deeply I can't even imagine. So that was one lesson that I learned right there. And immediately we said, wait a minute, this is not acceptable. Everyone should be sleeping under a bed net. I know how much we have, so I headed up to what we call the phone booth. I wanted to walk anyway. I was very upset, so I went up into the mountains, and I called my minister at that time, and I told her what had happened. And I said, we need $1,000 tomorrow to get bed nets for everyone. I didn't say, it would be nice if you would, or would you please send. I just said, we need it. And it was there. She announced it that Sunday morning in the congregation. They responded. And now everyone in the village is sleeping under a bed net. You know, people always tell me, people come up to me and say, wow, that's just wonderful what you're doing. That's just great. You know, that's incredible. Well, no, it's really not. It's not incredible at all. It's exactly what I should be doing. It's what's expected of me. I have the knowledge and I have the ability to do this. If someone thinks that what I'm doing here is so spectacular and so incredible, it's not that, it's that you're not doing what you should be doing. Every single one of you can make a difference. There's so much need out there, and there's so much that you can do. All you have to do is just do it. And I would really encourage you to find something, whatever it is, that you're passionate about, and follow that. And I can guarantee you won't regret it. Thank you very much.